Hello, everyone, and welcome to a More Perfect podcast. I am your host, Mike. Today, we have two very special guests. They are North Carolinians, they are lawyers, they're TikTokers, they're folk rock musicians, and they are my friends, Jody and Jordan Lee. Hello, friends, and a puppy. Sorry, I while I was saying it, I kept getting this in the background. There are three special people: Jordan, Jody, and their puppy,
Margot the Destroyer.
Margot the Destroyer. Hi, all three of you.
Hey, buddy. So good to see you.
It's great to see you guys too.
Actually, I did have a question. How come you were so adamant that this was a close-on podcast when I
well,
close on or off? Like, we're offensively like on, please.
It's YouTube rules. It's not a me rule.
I mean, Margot didn't get the memo. So.
Margot's doing the no clothes for us. Yeah. So it's really exciting to have. For those of you that are new to this community, I met Jordan. Has to be almost a year ago at this point.
Probably.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. I found one of your TikToks talking about crazy stuff going on in the world. You mentioned you were from North Carolina, and I went, me too. Mm-hmm. And that, it's the start of a beautiful friendship. So I was reading, I want to let everyone listening learn about you guys a little bit, and then we'll go into, what's going on in your life. So, both of you are lawyers. Mm-hmm. What kind of lawyers are you?
Okay, that means I go first, I guess. Mm-hmm. I do mostly commercial real estate, which is like asset purchase agreements for buildings and the commercial leasing work that goes along with that. So that's most of what I do. And I do some trademark law a little bit on the side.
Okay. So super exciting stuff. Great.
Yeah, very. That's exactly what people say when I tell them.
It puts a roof over our head, Michael.
How dare you? That is true. I'll never go against that.
And I now teach at a law school in it's called professional development. So it's like preparing law students for resume drafting, for different legal practices and stuff. But I'm a former litigator, as is Jody. So we used to be trial courtroom attorneys.
Okay.
We aren't anymore. Primarily to make room for music.
For the music. Yeah. I was reading about that. You guys both went to school for law, were lawyers, but that's not how you guys got together. It was the music side of things that got you together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Jody put a spell on you and caused you to move all the way from Texas to North Carolina.
Yep.
It's pretty much how it went.
They do that.
Yeah.
It was crazy, dude. Like, so I had been pretty wild in my youth. I was always trying to get, sober, and I was always kind of, I was playing music, and I just grew up a little later, I guess is the best way to describe it. I got a job teaching high school. I went to grad school, and then I went to law school, and then I graduated, and like, all that time, I kind of got my life together. So, of course, my family was like super excited that I, had this law job in Texas. I had passed the bar, and I'd only been there like a year when I told them I was quitting that job and moving to North Carolina to be with Jody. And they were like,
I bet that went well.
Holy shit, dude. I mean, I think they were more just like, well, my dad was cool. My mom was more just like terrified that it just seemed so sudden and weird.
She was shocked, I think. I
mean, we knew each other, but we knew each other because I went to school here in North Carolina where Jody practices. And we went to the same school as each other, just not at the same time.
Gotcha.
And so when we met, we were both married to other people, and we reconnected. We were both going through separations. And that's when we started talking. And then I was like, I have to be with her. And Jody had a longer established career. I was a first year associate. Jody was a partner at her firm. It was just, we were at it would have been selfish. Also, Texas is hot as shit, and the politics are way worse there, dude.
That's true. Although right now, I'm not really wouldn't want to be in either state.
I know. No, I know.
At this point. So music brought you together. What?
Well, my charm, probably.
Right. We can't forget music and charm.
Charm, yeah.
Yeah.
Charm first.
What? So you guys are folk music. How would you describe like the kind of music you guys do? Like, I know when we first met, you were doing folk music, but I feel like just recently you guys have, and maybe I'm remembering it wrong, I feel like I read somewhere or heard you say somewhere that you're kind of changing a little bit, at least kind of the direction of the stuff you're writing.
I don't know if that's...
Well...
maybe how we describe ourselves.
Yeah, I think we always kind of... Folk is like a huge umbrella, and we have very different...
Okay, you're going.
We have very different tastes in music.
Okay.
Jordan's probably more of like the Texas country Americana stuff. And so like the style that we had when we first started writing songs together skewed way more towards, I would say, country folk.
Okay.
But I'm more on the, I don't know, pop folk side, and we both kind of come together because we kind of like a punky sound as well. So I think we kind of, our writing has evolved to be a little more edgy, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Our instrumentation's, pretty much the same. Jordan really likes to play acoustic, so that keeps us, I think, in the folk category.
Yeah.
So.
And you guys just released a new video that I saw. Yeah. I saw it on TikTok. I went, hey, I know those guys. I'm talking to them today.
That's the one, right? The plastic bag one. That's the one.
Yeah.
The semifinalist. Yeah.
And so we'll let everyone else know, because we talked about that while we weren't recording. So that video, what is the name of the video again?
So the song is A Plastic Bag Odyssey.
Okay.
And it's out on Spotify, and we've got our video on YouTube, and we'll
put a link down here for everyone. But that's awesome. So I must admit, it was very interesting seeing Jordan sweeping with a guitar on his back. That was like, didn't surprise me.
That's how he
all
works.
Good bag boys.
That's how he works in general. Is just with a guitar on his back.
Just walks around like we were in Germany, and like he's just walking around with a guitar on his back. Just
I did walk through the airport playing a song, and people were like, and I had Jody filming, and people were just like, "Oh God,
Americans."
These kinds of people.
Was this in Germany?
Yeah.
At the airport. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Germans, I've been to Germany. They
were really sweet. And
they are
quite patient, I think.
Well, once we got them, the fans in the venues were great. They were awesome. But like one-on-one, you try to like joke and stuff, and they're just so stoic and dry sense of humor.
Their humor is very different.
You're like, oh my God, these people hate me. And then over time, though, like when we were playing, they were great. They were warm and friendly. And we were in North Germany too, so the coldest of Germans. But they were great. They bought all the merch. They wanted to be supportive in a way that was refreshing. It was really cool. It was so cool. It made us feel like stars for a little bit,
And you know what? I was just amazed that like they were so grateful. Like so many people were like, "Thank you," and I was like, "No, thank you." I mean, you just don't. I don't know. You don't play a lot of gigs where people just come up to you and like, "Thank you for playing." And it was just.
Well, in like the United States, there's this like your labor should have utility. So it's like if you're playing music, well, you're doing that for fun. Where in Germany, it was like, thank you for sharing the thing that you've worked really hard at. and the labor was appreciated for being labor as opposed to the fact where there's always this question in America where it's like, well, how does that make you money? It's like, how is that a question?
Yeah.
It's weird that is our baseline.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think the gratitude came from, was a different perspective about labor and hard work, not needing utility, but offering something different. So it was cool. It was fun to experience.
Yeah. I mean, I got to go to Germany. I went on tour with my choir, a college choir, Germany, awesome. Austria, Czech Republic, Switzerland. It was really cool. Europe is really cool.
That sounds like a really amazing trip. Did you have any time to like sightsee, or was it all just like from?
Oh no, we definitely got time to sightsee.
How long were you there?
2 weeks.
Yeah,
2.5 weeks.
That's a good amount of time, but you hit a lot of places for
young
just
college
2 weeks.
kids. They were probably sleeping.
I know
a
they
few
probably
hours at night.
probably weren't sleeping.
Yeah, no. It was actually interesting because I'm one of those kids that actually did not drink until I was 21. So we went, and I was like, this was my sophomore year. So I was like 19. There, you can drink at 18.
Yeah.
So we'd go there, and they'd always try and get me to drink, and I'd be like, no, I'll have a soda.
Aww.
And they just gave me the weirdest looks. Like literally, they thought I'd lost my mind that I wouldn't have like a beer.
Because it was legal.
Because yeah, I'm one of those weird people.
Oh, I think it's really cute, actually.
Well, but yeah, so like we get to sing. I mean, it doesn't matter. We got to sing in the Cathedral of the Black Madonna in Switzerland. It's the largest cathedral in all of Europe. It's one of those things where you sing a note and it just covers for like 30 seconds, bouncing around. It was amazing. Austria was the best though. If you ever get a chance to go to Salzburg, Austria.
We need to.
Oh, it's on my list. And actually, when I was trying to book stuff, I had finally settled on Germany because we had gotten some responses with a couple dates there. And then I got a response from one of the places, I think it was in Salzburg. And I was like, oh, dang it. I can't. I already gave that date away somewhere else.
Oh, no.
So now we'll just have to go back.
Salzburg was definitely one of my favorites, just wandering around all of it. And then you also get to see the statue where the Sound of Music is made and all that stuff. And
see, I got to do that.
So, so we're gonna, we're talked about music a little bit, but we're gonna get down and dirty. Jordan knows all the stuff that I talk about on my channel.
Are we gonna talk about God?
No. I mean, we can if you want, but no.
We have to know: are you a tenor or a baritone?
Oh, I'm a tenor.
You're a tenor. All right.
Yep.
Oh, how nice for you.
And Jordan's a baritone, so he's always complaining about, oh, these tenors can just sing whatever they want to.
Yeah, it is frustrating, and also microphones. You really need somebody to balance mics well, because the low end gets swallowed up by a lot of different frequencies that come out of the guitar and the drums. And like tenors don't understand the struggle of EQing a live microphone for a baritone. It's like to be able to speak and sing so people can hear you in like a loud venue. It's you need somebody who really gets it. So anyways, it's just a struggle. It's out of envy, jealousy. So
well, it's important that you admit that you've got a problem with us.
In general, just
in general, I've got a problem.
Well, the worst ones.
Here we go.
The worst ones are the tenors that still have that like that sort of timbre that makes it sound low, and then you go and try to sing it. You're like, holy that's in they're singing in A, and it's like notes out of my range, but they make it sound deep and resonant.
Yeah.
So
yeah. When I was in high school, I was a soprano. So
me too.
I hated that. Can you imagine a ninth grader being stuck in the soprano section of a choir?
You moved down.
Down. I moved down a little bit.
Yeah, you moved down. So,
but I hated life then.
Well, yeah, that's
yeah.
So I want to switch sides just a little bit, and I want to ask you guys, how do you feel about the fact that it's only been 7 weeks of this new administration?
That's it. It's only been 7.
It's only been 7 weeks.
I don't know. I'm trying to think about things a little differently. Like, I'm trying to understand how the lack of communication, and you're like really good about this, man. You are able to talk to people on the other side and remain compassionate and listen. I know it's an important thing with you is about bridging that gap through communication. But I've watched I know I'm already going into a meta conversation about this, but I've watched some of those Jubilee debates on YouTube.
Hate them.
And it's garbage.
Hate them.
Here's the thing that I think you can still value free speech, but you can also admit that certain people aren't at a place or have the qualifications to speak on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why there's not two sides to whether or not the earth is round. And that's why you don't have regular people, debating physicists and astronomers. But yet, if you do, it gets really messy. And the astronomer or physicist doesn't always win because they're not meeting at neutral ground where the facts are agreed upon.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to reimagine, and one of the reasons I haven't done as much political posting is I don't know how useful it is. I think being factual and reasonable is good for people like us who care and value those things. But I think actually this has more to do with storytelling, more to do with metaphor, meaning people complaining about certain things aren't complaining about what they say they're complaining about.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor for a different dis-ease that they have. So I'm trying to reimagine things more using songwriter brain than lawyer brain.
Yeah.
For being our communicative problem. So I haven't come up with any solid thesis yet, but I was recently told by a fan that they were going to burn our merch because we have aligned with radicals, and that they would give it away, but they're afraid somebody like us would buy it and commit a crime in our
some
t-shirts.
Heinous crime wearing our merch, and wouldn't that be bad headline?
And I said, ma'am, if you did not know our music was political until now, you have not been listening.
Yeah. Which, I mean, is sort of true when you think about it. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but when I was growing up, for most of my life, until I was a full-time singing streamer, I realized I didn't pay attention to the words on any song. Any song.
Yeah.
And then I started singing them more often, and I started actually realizing that I was singing them wrong, either wrong like my entire life, or I just started, because I sang them so much, I actually started thinking about the words they were saying, and you're like, yep, I just liked the beat before then, but now I'm actually listening. That
was me. Until I met Jordan, I mean, lyrics were there, they were great, whatever. I didn't think about them. And I would still sing along with them, sometimes the wrong words, of course, but I didn't think about what they meant, what kind of story was being told, like what was the purpose of the song.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something now that I think about because I'm a songwriter, and I haven't always been. I mean, I grew up being a singer, so I didn't play an instrument. I didn't think I'd ever write songs, actually. So, I get that, where you're coming from 100%. Do
you guys see how do you guys see your music over the next 4 years? Like, is it going, I know you already said that if you didn't, to this fan, like if you haven't been listening, you obviously haven't been listening because our stuff has always had kind of a political thing to it. Do you see your music changing a little bit as whatever is going on in the world continues?
I don't think so. I do think our greatest attribute, probably besides Jody's voice, which is excellent, is we have such a broad range of stuff we write about, man. We write songs about a Bigfoot hunter who has given up his life to pursue Sasquatch through the Pacific Northwest. We write songs about the political moment, and then sometimes we write self-serving songs about our own interests and anxieties.
Songs about dogs.
Tons of songs about dogs.
Because you got a few of them.
Yeah, a few.
Story songs. We revamp murder ballads and old folk tales.
There you go.
And so we are always writing with source material. We try really hard to write outside of our own lives. And I think that comes from a place of privilege, right? Where like we live in the suburbs and we still have our jobs and we love each other. And, you know, we're not currently dealing with any mental health crises. And so your material has to be from outside of yourself. And so, no, and we've always written politically.
Yeah. I mean, sure, we might be more influenced or inspired to write more political stuff. But in general, I think we find inspiration from the whole world around us. I mean, we were driving somewhere once and Jordan's like, he looked at the stoplight and was like, get out your app, like write this down. You know, it's just like something he saw that made him think of a great line or something. And
I got mad respect for people that can write like that. I have always wanted to write a song. I've been singing since I was 6. I've performed all of that stuff. Writing is not ever been something that I have been skilled at. I've tried and I don't know. I never felt anything from it.
But here's what's so interesting is like, I'm not a natural singer despite working on it really hard. I've gotten better, but I feel like incrementally, you know, and I'm really jealous of people who can sing really well. But here's the funny thing. When I listen to music from middle school through high school, the only thing I cared about was the lyrics, right? So I think it's just like where your value system is. And so I had to learn how to sing. And I honestly think you can learn how to write, but you got to start doing it.
For sure. Oh, I get that. No part of the problem is me in the end. But
Yeah. No, I think I totally get it. There's some things that we're just drawn to, and we tend to be better at those things.
Where it's definitely music for me, when I can hear a word. I don't know if you guys do it, but I have this thing where someone will say a word and it will make me think of a song, and I will just put the word in, even if it was never in the song. It just made me think of the song, and I will just start singing a line and add that word in or something like that. That always, and I'm always whistling because I'll get a song in my head and I'll just start humming or whistling the song.
I'm not a good whistler. I can hum, but
there's this song by the Water Boys, which is like an 80s indie punk rock band out of England, I guess. And there's this song called The Fisherman Blues, and for some reason it always made me think of my soul dog Duncan. It had nothing to do with the dog, but I have those songs that they make me think of someone or a thing, even though they're not related at all. And it's weird. Yeah. It's like, what wavelength is matching up there? That makes me I love the power of songs to do that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite misheard song lyric that you learned one day was just wrong, but you'd been singing it your whole life?
Oh gosh.
Put you on the spot here.
Cranberries Zombie.
Okay.
What was she
saying?
What
was the line?
Oh man, I don't even remember anymore because I sang it. So, because I think I mentioned this to Jordan a while ago. So, starting in 2019, I became a full-time streamer who sang karaoke. I literally sang karaoke 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. Even a couple times where I sang for like 24 hours,
Cool.
like straight. So, and it was this thing where like the words would come up and you'd sing with it and all this other stuff. So that was how I started realizing I didn't know any of the words. Now I know all of them because I sang them like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Because when you're a full-time singing karaoke streamer and you're doing it live, people come in and they request the same song again and again and again and again. There were a couple times where I sang the same song like 20 times in a day. So I just remember that was one of the songs where I was like, I realized I just had no idea, because all I knew was that was the only part that I even knew really from it was the huh? Like that was the fun part of the song, was to just do that. Huh?
Did you? I'm really fascinated by this. I can't imagine just on the fly singing a song that I didn't really know. Like, not even like, what key is it going to be in? Am I even going to be able to like hit all the notes? Like, that would just be so stressful.
And I can tell you, I did not hit all the notes, and they still had me sing it.
Oh,
but I would turn it into something funny. Like, so this is one of those things where you'd sing it and they'd give you like stars if you if you kept within because they'd actually show you the keys, and every time you sang it, it would hit the line. And the more you kind of like the Just Dances and the stuff like that. So I did this thing where if I didn't 3-star it, I called it like workout challenge, where so if I failed, I'd have to like lift weights or do push-ups or do sit-ups, and every time I failed, I'd have to do more and more of them. So by the end, I would literally be dying, at least in the beginning. By the end, I knew the song so well, I was able to do it. But yeah, there were a couple songs that I shouldn't have sung.
What made you decide to start doing that?
So I was a streamer gaming, and I've always sung, and my community said, there's this singing app. We want you to do it. I said, fine. You hit this goal, I will do it. I did it. They hit the goal, and I did it in the first day. And I exploded in that channel. Like I was, cool. It was pretty nuts. Within 4 months, I was hanging out with people that were on American Idol at one point. It was pretty crazy. And then it closed during COVID because the music companies decided they wanted more money for all of these songs, and the company that did it said, we're not paying this money anymore. Yeah. So they shut it down, which stunk, because it was pretty crazy. Like it was probably good that it didn't happen, because there were a couple times there were some periods in this career where I would go visit other people's streams who were doing the same app, and I was treated like royalty, like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, he's in my live, kind of a thing. And I was enjoying it probably too much. So in the end, it probably was good that it stopped, but I also miss it every single day, because a community of people that are singing all the time is just, there's really nothing else like it.
Amazing.
And it was everything, all the way from like Danny Boy to Disturbed. Like Disturbed was probably the most fun one I ever did, just to go, wah! I just loved it. Was just, those are the kind of things that were just great. And musical theater too. Yeah, I just like singing. Look what you guys did. I'm supposed to be interviewing you guys, and I'm sitting here talking about my stuff.
Sorry.
No, you don't need to be sorry. It's completely fine. But yeah, it's really, I'm super interested in what you guys are doing, and that's one of the reasons that Jordan and I have talked online tons of times, and I just think it's really cool that you guys are one of the things that I think that is going to be necessary over the next, especially 4 years, but even longer, is all of us that care about, democracy and our country, to do, like, I don't think there's one right answer for how we move forward. And I also don't think there's only one option for what everyone should be doing. And I think it's cool that you guys are using something that you love, singing, and music writing, to come at it from that angle, where, I probably wouldn't do that. So,
well,
it hasn't really caught. I mean,
yeah,
it's been hard to. It hasn't caught on. Like, our TikTok following was mainly from political takes, especially our legal takes on things, which is one way I think everybody who has an area of expertise should use that skill set to then go out and talk to the world about it. And then, so we then tried to blend it with our music, and it just hasn't taken off quite the same. Like, our fan base, our followers on TikTok are like, where's the legal take? And so we've had some success with like doing like Schoolhouse Rock versions of like explaining the Constitution, but it's also not what we want to do primarily.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work too, to like write a new song, every day or whatever. I mean, because you still want it to sound like a song, and you still want it to rhyme, and and then also being lawyers, especially for me, I'm like, this, I can't take it. It's just oversimplified, and it doesn't, like I get all bogged down in the details because that's my life. That's what I do, and to try to boil that down to a minute and a half jingle or something just feels wrong. But also, I mean, I do think there's a place for that, because I think about, like, as a kid, everything you learn important, you learn with like music, like you learn your ABCs to a song. I still remember I had like a few little French classes when I was like 5 or 6, and I remember the songs. And so I think song can be a really powerful tool to help connect with memory and to trigger something, and a good way to get a message out as well. So I'm not ready to give up on it yet.
So I might have a request for you guys, because I know Jordan hasn't been on my lives recently. It amazes me how few people know anything about what a tariff is.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the amount of people that think that that other countries pay our tariffs is just mind-boggling. So if you decide to do one
on tariffs, I think
suggest tariffs.
That's a great idea. And it's very funny. I posted something about the Smoot-Hawley tariffs from like the 1930s that made the Depression worse on my Facebook one day. And you would think anyone who's not a history nerd would not care about that. And that got like the most comments that I think I'd ever gotten on my Facebook page.
Yeah. The Smoot-Hawley Act.
I mean, it was crazy. And I was like, I was shocked at the people who came out to comment on it. Some of them who just were completely off base, and really had no historical context for what it actually did in the 30s and why it's bad for the economy.
I have an economics question. So we know that tariff. See, I asked Jody all this stuff. I don't ever know any of this. So we know that the company here has to pay the tariff, and then they pass that cost on down to the consumer. And the idea is it becomes like so expensive that they just go ahead and use labor here as opposed to importing somewhere else. And it's supposed to spur, I don't know, us making things here. And they're always like, well, it's going to lead to more jobs. Aren't we at like 98% employment? Like,
96%, I think, is
Yeah.
what
Well,
I
isn't
think
that
we
like
have a
the cap
4%
before you
unemployment.
can go into?
That's where we were before all the federal workers got laid off. I don't know
The
where we
last
are right now.
official
Yeah.
one we've gotten says we're at 4% unemployment.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see once the government ones hit the numbers where we're at. So
But so
this
like,
is what
why
I
do you
always tell.
want all these jobs? Who's going to work those jobs? There's nobody.
This is what I tell people. So there's targeted tariffs and there's blanket tariffs. Targeted tariffs are what a government can use to protect your business, like the steel industry. They've used it for Harley in the past, to when Japan and China and all them were sending over cheaper motorcycles, things like that.
Mhm.
That happens all the time, all over the place. We've used it. Every other country's used it. Blanket tariffs, like the ones in the Smoot-Hawley Act in 1930, are broad tariffs, where basically they just put tariffs on everything.
Yep.
So
regardless of whether you could possibly make it or grow it here. So
correct.
therefore, you're not encouraging American industry because we can't grow avocados here, for example. Our we don't have the climate for it.
Yep.
And, to your point, targeted tariffs have been used in a smart way and in a good way, usually to support industries that we already have and that are robust, not things that we don't have and can't support and can't grow overnight. Like,
Correct.
we're not going to bring clothing manufacturing back to the US. And even if we were, we can't do that fast enough to ever make a difference.
Yeah.
We're already going to be in a recession because it's going to take decades to rebuild that. It's just, it's not smart when you don't target it.
So what do those people then, Michael, think they're getting at? You're saying that people come, they don't know what a tariff is. What do they think's happening? Why do they think it's good?
Well, so they think it's good because they think that it's going to bring more manufacturing to the United States. Mm-hmm. My biggest argument is, how does that decrease the cost of living for all the people that can't already afford to live? So the problem is they are deflecting like before the election, because you were there, you heard everyone. It was always about costs too much to live. It costs too much to live. There's groceries are too expensive. Houses are too expensive. All this stuff's too expensive. Where now they're saying, now that Trump has already admitted that he can't reduce the prices of things like he said he could. Shocker. I know. I was shocked when I heard him say that. Mm-hmm. So now they are saying that it's just going to increase more jobs. Yet they still think we're going to make money from the tariffs, even though if we bring in more manufacturing here, there will be less money brought in from tariffs, but they still want to give tax returns or increase tax returns. So I don't know where they think we're getting the money from.
Yeah. Once you dig into it, it does kind of fall apart and get like really circular. And it becomes apparent that they just don't understand how they work. And
in the end, it shows that the country is just more complicated than most of us. I mean, I considered myself pretty well versed in how our government and country worked. And over the last 3 years of me doing political content, I realized how little I knew about how everything really worked.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, you and me both. I mean, I don't think Jody had, but I'd taken legislative and administration law. Did you?
Yeah,
you did. Mm-hmm. Legislative and administration law. We knew all about federal agencies. I mean, that's where they get their constitutional authority from, how they work, and there's stuff we have to dig into all the time.
Yes, it's just incredibly complicated, and even people who are experts in their areas, they still have to research things and I'll never forget, one of my professors used to make this analogy, and I just thought it was so perfect. And she would say, folks who say, oh, I can balance my checkbook. Why can't the government balance the budget? Make comments like that. She's like, that's like saying I can drive my car, therefore I can fly a spaceship.
Mm,
Like, they're two entirely different things. And the problem, again, is just this massive oversimplification, sound bites,
yeah.
that just really make a problem seem like there's some simple solution when there isn't. And you got to do the hard work to figure it out.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing that I'm getting at this is what I was asking about with these questions. Like, why do they find them so attractive? And I think that's the answer, because they're simple.
Simple, yeah.
And I wonder if progressive just need to have a simple answer too, that's not based in a whole lot of reality, because they're not going to suddenly wake up and be like concerned with nuance, and that's my problem. Like,
Yeah.
how do
But you also have to balance that with the fact that a lot of your base is college educated and they do appreciate nuance. So you're going to get in trouble either way, I think.
Yeah, it is definitely I feel like we're dealing with, so we definitely need a simpler message, like a simpler, as much as I have major problems with the current administration, the one thing that he did well was his messaging. He made it simple. He made it something they could remember easily. And that is not something the Democrats have done well in previous, or in recent times, at least since Obama. Obama did it.
hope?
So,
Yep. Yes, we can.
so that's one of the problems. The other problem is because life is so complicated now, what we're dealing with is a bunch of people that. So this is one of the reasons that I think conspiracy theories have become so big. When something is so complicated that your brain can't understand it, you start filling the holes with things that you can understand.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone says, that's why you keep hearing a lot of people on that side of the aisle say, it just makes sense.
I know.
Yeah.
That's exactly why. So, because the stuff we're trying to explain doesn't make sense, but their more simple explanation makes perfect sense to them. So that's what they stick with.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure there's an easy answer to it.
Well, if there is, I don't think we'll find it, tonight, because I don't have it.
Or it's definitely not going to be. It's definitely not going to be a fast. It's definitely not going to be a fast answer.
Well, again, that takes me back to why I was saying that I'm really concerned with things like storytelling and with protagonists and antagonists and
Like Lake and Riley. That was a story where, if you think about it, we have so many crimes committed on a daily basis. We have children being murdered in schools and Uvalde and all this stuff. And somehow this one story of this one person became the face of, and I don't think her family necessarily wanted her to be.
Absolutely didn't want it to be.
Of the anti-immigrant sentiment. It's a story. That one story meant more than all the stats that you could possibly throw at anybody.
The thing I always think about is, like, I'm pretty educated, but I don't like flying on airplanes, right? They just make me nervous. And at least until this administration, there's a 99.99% chance that every plane you're going to get on, you're going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
Well, these planes would land 10 years ago, and I would get off, and the first thing I would do is smoke a cigarette. So the thing I'm afraid of is pretty much guaranteed not to kill me. And then the thing I go out and willingly participate in is guaranteed to kill me.
Yeah.
And so that's what tells me our brains aren't primed for reason and logic. They don't, that's not what they respond to. And I also quit my job and was ready to come here to live with Jody, not because I was able to put a pro and con sheet together, but because I was moved by how much I felt for someone.
Yeah.
And I just think we've got to start reimagining. And I think there's this sort of like Aaron Sorkin West Wing version of politics that I think like older millennials and Gen Xers especially are victim to, where it's like, we just have to be reasonable and trust the American voter and with the facts and they'll get it. And just, there's a reason that marketing works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah. I do think everybody taking ownership of their areas of expertise, is good, and educating people is going to be one thing. There's always this thing about elitists and being looked down upon. Like those common sense people also always say you look down on us. There's always the claim that college educated people look down on them.
Yeah.
And I think the response is like, well, I don't pontificate on like virology because I don't know anything about it. I just kind of trust those people who do.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a humility aspect that I'm not very good at, because the truth is I am probably a dickhead about it. But it's, but at the same time, like, it's okay to not understand constitutional law. It's okay to not be able to educate yourself just using ChatGPT and constitutional law for you to wrap your head around it in the course of even a couple of weeks. In the same way that it's okay for me to not understand physiology.
In the same way, it's okay for us to call a plumber who didn't go to college to fix our plumbing. We don't know how to do it. And I think it takes humility in that sense to know what you don't know. And I think, and I've used this with my mom before, because she sort of has the same kind of mentality, this, oh, you're looking down on me, talking down to me. And it's like, look, I'm not a hairdresser. You've been doing it for decades. I'm not going to try to bleach my own hair. I'm not, I can go to you or to someone else who knows how to do that. And I'm not going to tell you how to do your job because I know better. But I don't know. I do think sort of the internet has created this wealth of information and misinformation where everyone thinks they're an expert now because they got on a Reddit thread and just figured it out. And it's just not true.
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes it makes me wonder how, like, where do we go from that though? Because the amount of information is not going away, barring, a complete destruction of, an EMP destroying everything we have.
Yeah, I think it's education. When I was in school, I specifically remember this exercise. We had two statements, and one was a statement of fact and one was a statement of opinion. And we would have to do F or O, fact or opinion, opinion. We had to read the statements and figure out what they were. And there's so many people out there who cannot differentiate between a fact and an opinion, and they don't understand why something is a fact, i.e. it can be proven with data or testing, or why something is an opinion, which is just, hey, this is what I think.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a reason why the college educated folks will tend to vote more liberal, is because I think they have developed the ability to sort through fact from fiction, and to understand, hey, I went to school and my professors knew more than I did on this topic. I knew that. I understand that. And I can recognize that. And I think I do think there is like this big divide there, partly because of education, and I do think that's also why the Republicans have fought so hard to destroy public education, is because they understand that.
Right. But baby, Jody, respectfully, my love, that is not an answer. Like, just investing on public education.
I'm just saying,
that's a 15-year project.
It's not just that, though, but you can educate in a lot of different ways. And I think, social media is one way that you do that. And it's like you were saying, with experts speaking in their field, explaining things, breaking it down for folks who otherwise would have just gotten lost in a Reddit thread.
Yeah.
I think that's really important and really valuable. But I don't think we need to skip over some of those basic things like fact versus opinion. I think we've
We could
got to
also
still.
just be dealing with the problem that this is going to take a while to fix.
It is.
I mean,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
there, the information age, the internet age. We're at what, 20 years old now on the internet being around ish, 20 plus. Um, there's a whole group of people that are older than us that have no idea, nor do they care about using the internet for anything.
Mhm.
And then there's a whole bunch younger than us that use it for everything. And I think we're seeing a very large just bashing of styles of how we get our information and how we learn things. We have people that don't know the internet that are trying to use the internet to figure out things, and they use it exactly like they used to use it when they would go to the library or something like that. And you just find one book that would give you the answer that you need, and that's all you that's one or two at most, where now you have to sift through like 20 to get the answer that you're looking for. And it opens the door to the kind of misinformation that we are dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Do you ever listen to the Focus Group podcast?
Yep.
Now, I mean, that is the most stunning thing I've ever. I mean, I hate to listen to, but I do because it's so important. But it's
it does freak you out, especially when they say things and you're just like,
I know. It's not like when there's like government worker or people who rely on government grants who are about to lose their jobs and they're like brainwashed into thinking that it's still a good thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is happening? But that teaches me a lot about understanding how, and maybe respecting how little people know. As we're freaking busy. Like, people are busy.
True.
They got a lot going on.
They got work. They got kids. They're running around to soccer games. I think it's a lot to ask of people to ask them to know all of these things.
But we have a responsibility to show up in people's feeds now, is what I'm trying to say. So if you are listening to this podcast and you're somebody who's on public student loan forgiveness and is having trouble getting your 10 years worth of qualifying payments, like, tell your story.
Yeah.
This is how it's going to go. So the example I was going to talk about was when they came in, they started talking about all the money they were saving, and Doge.
Okay.
And they were saving. They found all this waste, fraud, and abuse. And it was just 2 days ago that the New York Times put out that 4-piece op-ed or 4-piece opinion video. I guess it was an opinion, 4-piece editorial opinion on the inspectors general who had actually found certain amounts of fraud. I don't understand why that wasn't the widespread response immediately. The first immediate response I never heard was, we audit the government all the time, and they fired all those people who do that. So why are billionaires firing inspectors? It took 3 weeks.
And by that point, it's too late. The cycle has moved on.
Because it's not exciting.
The story's already out there. You're right, though. The first thing you hear, usually it's the thing that kind of sticks in your head. And then when it's not refuted for weeks,
I can say
there.
From the people that I've interacted with, because I mean, I've said that many times, and people have come in and talked about how we need to audit, blah blah blah, and I've said we do. Like I've made videos about it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it didn't work because there's still waste, fraud, and abuse, and I'm like, They've literally saved us. Like, there's actually a video out with all of the inspectors generals that got laid off, and they talk about the amount of money they've saved the American people.
That's the New York Times one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they've saved almost $1 trillion altogether. in their time.
Yeah. And the quote savings from Doge are like, I think they had people actually go through the numbers and they found that maybe 2 billion. But the problem with that is, you can lose revenue from the things that you've cut. For example, if you look at national parks, they cost like 3.6 billion a year to run and operate, but they bring in 21 billion in revenue. So, okay, great. Listen, you're cutting something that's actually like a money maker, and it's the same thing with the IRS. You're cutting them, but that is really your biggest way of bringing in revenue. So it doesn't make sense to just say, oh, we've cut this, this, and this. And another thing is the leases, where they're like, oh, we've canceled these contracts or these leases and things like that. And they would call it $100 billion contract, but it was already 80% paid out.
Yep.
So you did not save us $100 billion.
Yeah.
And in fact, we may have a thing that we've spent 800 million on or whatever that's now not usable. And if we would have just spent the remaining 200, we'd have a usable thing. So it's really going to be, I think it's really going to be a huge problem when we're only 7 weeks in, right? But I think we're going to find out that there's so many problems with all these contracts. And you're going to get to spend a lot of taxpayer money for all the penalties for terminating contracts before the end of their term. You don't get to just go around canceling contracts without consequences.
But Trump is different.
Well, he's not going to pay him out anyway. Like, that's his thing, right? He doesn't care if he has a contract or if you built his casino, he's not going to pay you anyway. So,
well, this is again, like, you're getting down into the facts, and and like, this is, but the problem is they're not hearing any of that. So, and I don't even think that the so-called like independents are hearing that. There's something about this idea that these movers and shakers are going to shake things up and finally go after the institutions that have been. I just don't know. Like, number one, I do think we spend way too much time bemoaning where we are instead of just accepting we are where we are.
It's true.
And figuring out how to deal with it. Because I get it. I do it all the time.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's hard not to.
But also, then I don't feel like we're asking these folks the right questions. Instead of like, the debate culture is what's got me.
Yeah.
The debate culture seems to be completely antithetical to what we want to get done. When I think the real questions are things like, why do you think this instead of this? When you hear this, why do you believe that?
Yeah.
As opposed to this. Is there anything that Elon Musk could do that you would find to be an abuse of his power? Is there anything Trump could do that would make you not like him anymore? And those sorts of questions.
Focus group questions.
That get people to sort of question why they do have those loyalties. I just feel like we're combating this stuff the way we've always been taught, with classical rhetorical argument, right?
Yeah.
Like, well-reasoned logic, understanding the subject matter, answering the claim with a counterclaim, and like, I just feel like that formula has been thrown out the window.
So this is the way that I've been looking at it lately. So we all have what we call fundamentals and non-negotiables. Things that are the most important to us, that we can have a discussion about. For me, I would say the way I look at it is, we can have a discussion about economy. We can have how an economy should work. We can have a discussion about how foreign policy can work. We can have discussion about whether pineapple should or shouldn't be on pizza. But I won't have a discussion about whether all people, no matter your race, religion, gender, or identity, deserve rights, respect, dignity, and safety. Mm-hmm. That's a non-negotiable. And I think that's where we're struggling as a voter base with this discussion. Is there is a group of people, MAGA in this case, that we do not agree on those fundamentals anymore. There is no agreement. So for me, at least, it's really hard because how can I have a discussion truly about economic policy when I can't even agree that everyone in this country deserves to be here?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's so one of the things that we have been doing, that I've been trying to push a lot in this community, is look, there's yes, I will listen. If MAGA, if someone who voted for Trump wants to talk and is willing to listen, I will talk with them. But if they come in and they act as though they're right and I'm wrong, I will just move on. Because they, you were talking about, Jordan, about, we're in this debate culture. That is part of the problem. We do not discuss things. What we're doing here is a discussion. We all three of us know that we don't have all the answers to everything. We talk about what we think, we talk about what we've experienced, and we say, okay, let's bring it all together and see where we go from here. And we're willing to listen to other people. There's a lot of people in this country on both sides of the aisle that don't want to listen to anybody. They think they are right. Their perspective is the only one that's right. They don't want to hear. Those are great for debating because they get the sound clips. All they can do is yell at each other, and they all feel justified in their yelling. What we're doing is the hard stuff. The discussion, I think most of the people agree on those fundamentals. I think I truly believe that a majority of this country truly believe on, at least for, I'm not going to put fundamentals and non-negotiables into your mouth, but I think most of America agrees on those kind of things. We just don't agree on everything, which we never will. So we have to accept the fact that we're not going to agree on everything. Hold on to the fact that there is something up here that we can agree on, and learn how to work together and through the parts where we don't agree.
Yeah, I think you were telling me once, Jordan, about not Shankar Sorio and values-based messaging, and finding a value, a baseline value. Like, we can all agree fairness is important, right? And then kind of work from there. And
Yeah.
I think that also sort of goes along with the storytelling, because if you can identify with a value that someone else has, even if it's not, they may think it means something different than you do, and it means something different to the two of you. But I do think that's sort of an opening to make some progress in general.
I was thinking about what makes a book or a song attractive to a lot of people, and it's when it's not just that book or song or TV show. It's not just that it's relatable to everybody, but that it provides enough moments where people can find themselves in that thing.
Yep.
And so the names may change, the place may change, but the whatever that ineffable thing is, the grief or the joy or the confusion or whatever that they can relate to.
Yeah.
And I am going to blame leftists and liberals a bit for this problem, because we're so responsive to everything. Like, why aren't we talking about how medical care is getting more expensive and nobody has a solution for it? And why aren't we talking about Medicare for all again? And one of the things I thought about was how screwed up our priorities are. That let's just, for the sake of argument, cede ground and say that trans women playing sports is unfair. I actually don't believe that, but let's just pretend I do in this moment. It's like thousands more times likely that there is somebody innocent on death row than it is there will be a trans woman playing college athletics.
Absolutely.
So we're so freaking I just feel like we're lacking the creativity, and there's something sort of that we might enjoy about waiting for MAGA's next terrible idea for us to tisk at and say how stupid it is. And I don't know. Where's the leadership? Where's the creative thinking? I think it's on us. I don't think anybody's going to save us.
No, I don't think anyone's going to save us.
I mean, people used to post "In Mueller We Trust." Remember those idiots?
Oh my gosh. But going back to where you started, books, music, dogs, there are things that I think cross those divides where people, like, everyone's like, oh, music can bring people together. And I've seen people.
Mitt Romney lost because he put that dog in the kennel on the roof of a car.
Exactly. You know, and I know some people who are like hardcore conservative, but like, you know, don't ever, ever, ever abuse an animal. And, you know, so that tells me there's something there that, you know, we each on our opposite sides of the fence have in common. And I think that should be explored. I think music's a way you can do that. I think writing is a way you can do that. And I think trying to figure out how to gear your messaging in that direction somehow. And I'm certainly no expert in that, but it just seems to me like those are the things that I see over and over where people can come together and agree on.
Not a fan. That's why I've always liked you, actually. I just realized, like, you've always tried to put forth solutions and ideas for how to do things to get through to people. Like, there's not that constant bemoaning the state of where we are. And I just think we need a lot more of that.
We all know where we are.
Yeah.
Right. And if you are hoping for a bottom, there is not one. There's not. So I just feel like if anybody's listening to this and you're hoping for a solution from anyone, go out and be the solution. Contribute. You know, take that worry and do something with it, whether it's making a video or making a connection.
Find community.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I was on a TikTok a lot. I wasn't on it. I was watching it. And this woman calls up and all like liberals and leftists, right? Kind of, you know, when they have like 14 of them in the box or whatever. Yeah. This woman said, and, you know, they're getting, you know, here's how they're going to harm Black and brown communities. And this woman of color yelled at this woman who was clearly a white woman and was like, do not speak on communities that are not your own. And it was like, oh my God, that's not how we build an effective coalition either, is tisking each other. For not, you know, this is one of the reasons I do think there were a lot of men who were told, this is going to get really controversial. Jody's going to distance herself.
I know what's getting ready to happen. Well, I've heard it before.
Well, no, I mean, we were told that some men were told silence is violence, right? And then also to shut up and listen. I think it was a confusing message. And I think most mature, grown adults know how to handle that. They get that it's contextual. They get that there's a time and place. But I do think for young men being bombarded with red pill YouTube culture, that they didn't know how to respond to that, and they didn't feel accepted or wanted on that side. And if you tell a 16, 17-year-old kid
with a fragile ego
already about, well, you should understand that, you know, white men have already dominated for 8,000 years. Shouldn't it be enough? And that is confusing. We have to be. This is why the egg message, and I did it. I posted something about egg prices being high. This is why it's not good, because it's not an actual, hey, cost of things is rising. It's a, see, told you, ha ha, now things are expensive. This is why the FAFO community is not ultimately useful either. This is not building a bigger tent or a bigger coalition in which to win elections.
I don't think they're trying to be useful.
I know.
I don't think that's their goal. I mean,
I know.
Right. And like cute puppy videos. Yeah, you can.
I think we're still
These are my beliefs, not Jody's, or could it be Happier's, by the way?
Well, I mean, I think in the grand scheme of things, this shows ultimately the problem that we're going to have over the next 2, 4, 10, 20 years, however long it takes to get over the edge. There's a lot of people that are hurt. There's a lot of people that are tired. There's a lot of people that are scared. Fear can cause I think fear is probably causing a lot of the extreme responses that we're seeing on all sides of the aisle. So I think there are a decent amount of calm voices out there. It's just going to take time to work its way through all the pain and fear that everyone's feeling right now. Because there's a lot of people that feel helpless and hopeless, and they have really good reason for feeling that way.
Absolutely.
Well, all the way back to the conversation about music, I do think we're going to have to be a place where people want to go, or the movement, the new progressive movement that's built needs to be a place people want to go and feel welcome into it again.
Yeah.
And that's going to require a bit of joy and fun about it all, which I actually thought, Kamala's campaign seemed to have a lot of, which is, I think Joe Biden would have been wiped out by, 40 states if he had stayed in. So I think that went a long way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That said, we're going to keep writing songs.
Yeah. And you definitely should keep writing songs. Well, I'm pretty sure we could probably talk for about 12 more hours if we really wanted to, but I don't think everyone is going to listen to that. So I think I think everyone's going to, they don't want to hear my voice. They're tired of it. So if you guys could let everyone know where they can find you, because I'm sure after all of this, they're all going to want to check you guys out.
Yes. So we are the only Couldn't Be Happier's band out there that we know of. So that's pretty much our handle on all the socials. Instagram, Facebook is all at Couldn't Be Happier's. Same with TikTok. And we on Blue Sky?
Yeah.
We maybe have one post, right?
Yeah, but TikTok, Instagram Couldn't Be Happier's. Yeah.
But yeah.
And make sure to check them out on Spotify.
And Spotify, that's right too. We do have a website, couldn'tbehappiers.com.
That's true. They do have a website. That's where I got all my information about you. So definitely check it out. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. It was awesome to just get to talk and have these kind of discussions. They're really important things to do. And I've obviously hung out with Jordan quite a few times, but it was really cool to hang out with you too, Jody.
Thank you.
I feel like I've gotten to know you through Jordan, so it was nice to get to know you in person.
Jody's way smarter, knows a lot more than me.
Definitely looks a lot better.
I just smile more when I say it, so.
She smells good too. Y'all can't tell from there.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to A More Perfect Podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, all the things so we can keep doing what we're doing here. Make sure you stay safe, find community, and keep an eye out for what's going on around you, because we are, as we said, we're only 7 weeks in, and there's a lot of crazy things that are going on. So make sure that you are doing what you can to stay safe and be ready for what all the stuff that needs to get done. Thank you, everyone, for following. Thank you again, Jordan and Jody. You guys are amazing. We'll see you next time on A More Perfect Podcast. Bye, guys.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you.